Lots of news around the NFL on Monday, starting out in Indy, where Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson left Sunday's game with what the team called a right hip injury as he took a hit from Steelers safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. Richardson has now failed to finish 4 of his 8 starts in the NFL due to injury. The second-year quarterback is reportedly day-to-day with abdominal and oblique injuries. Joined now by CBS NFL analyst Ryan Wilson. And Ryan, Anthony Richardson not officially ruled out for Sunday's game against the Jaguars, but considering what we saw from Joe Flacco when he took over the reins in Week 4 and the way the offense performed under Flacco, how do you think the Colts proceed here?
By the way, Madeline, seen that video of Anthony Richardson grabbing at his hip? That's me every morning getting out of bed, limping to the refrigerator.
Right.
So I know how he feels. The difference is, to your point, he's left a lot of games, hasn't played a ton of games. He's left a lot with injuries already in his young NFL career. And we saw Joe Flacco come in there. And I said at the time, as someone who pulls for the Steelers, this game is over because we know what Joe Flacco can do. Last year, he literally got off his couch and played the last 6 or 7 games for the Browns, helped that team get to the playoffs. So he came in, he was slinging it, unfazed by any of the defenses that he saw. He knew where to go with the ball. The running game was on point. And I think if you look ahead to their schedule, Madeline, they're at Jacksonville, they're at Tennessee. Jacksonville is spiraling. They might start firing people soon. The Titans, their second-year quarterback, Will Levis, is out as we currently sit here, and they have not played well. And then the Dolphins after that. So there's no urgency to get Anthony Richardson back out there against teams that are struggling either overall or with their quarterback play. I think you roll with Joe Flacco, you get Anthony Richardson healthy. And the other thing I would point out, we saw the hip injury on the play, the hit by Minkah. Once Anthony Richardson came back in for one more play, he took a headshot. So they need to have a plan that doesn't involve Anthony Richardson getting hit, protect him, and make sure he protects himself, which is something he has also struggled with.
Absolutely. He's a very physical player, and he's going to put his shoulder down and try to get that extra yardage.
Right.
Another injury that we monitored, though, we talked about this one yesterday, but Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice carted off the field in the first quarter of Sunday's win over the Chargers. He's Kansas City's leading pass catcher, obviously a major part of the offense. Andy Reid not so optimistic of this in a statement saying, quote, "We're still testing him on things. Don't have a definite diagnosis. He's not going to be available, obviously, this week. We're going to make sure we get all the tests done that need to get done." So, Ryan, when you hear what Andy Reid is saying and you take a look at the impact on this Chiefs offense, how do the Chiefs replace his production?
This is troubling. Now, Patrick Mahomes is still there, so you feel great about that. But through 3.5 games that we saw Rashee Rice out there, he had 24 receptions, which led the NFL. So we know how important he is. The other takeaway is he struggled the first month of his rookie season just getting acclimated to playing in the NFL, which happens with almost every receiver, not named Malik Neighbors, as you all know. And then he took off. He was so incredibly important what that offense did down the field. You and I talked yesterday about how typically Travis Kelce in his later years, he doesn't do much until December, and then January he really gets rolling. They're going to need to call on that now. And it is curious, even though Andy Reid said it, that they don't know yet where they are. You get the MRI, and you have a sense of whether the ACL is torn or not. So that's peculiar, and we'll find out what that means. But it sounds like, and Andy Reid said this at halftime of the Sunday game after Rashee left, that it looks bad. So now the question becomes, what do you do going forward? Xavier Worthy played well, the rookie first-round pick, but he's more of a deep threat. Does Juju Smith-Schuster get involved? He doesn't do the things that Rashee does in terms of the athleticism. They have Sky Moore, the former second-round pick, who has yet to find his stride. You see here with Justin Watson, he can give you something, but again, the sum of these parts don't necessarily equal to what you had in Rashee Rice. And then the other question, Madeline, becomes, are we going to trade for someone? And the names you hear out there are D-Hop, maybe Amari Cooper, which would feel like a home run, and some players that aren't quite Amari Cooper's level, Robert Woods perhaps, or Kendrick Bourne. So these are all the questions that the Chiefs are going to have to answer in the coming days as we figure out exactly where Rashee Rice is with this injury.
Right, and of course the NFL trade deadline November 5th, so they've got some time to sort that out.
Back, that's right.
But you mentioned too, I mean, Rashee Rice, he kind of emerged as the top pass catcher due to injuries and things that the Chiefs were dealing with as well. So perhaps a next man up situation here. Some good news, though, out of the injury front in Cleveland. The Browns have designated running back Nick Chubb to return from injured reserve and are officially opening his practice window. Now, Chubb hasn't played since week 2 of last season when he suffered a major knee injury. Now, he underwent 2 surgeries since then. Obviously, one of the league's best running backs when healthy. So, Ryan, what kind of an impact will this have on the Browns' offense, even when he does return?
It won't hurt. And you're right. Nick Chubb is arguably the most important player on that offense, not named Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson probably played his best game yesterday in a game that the Browns still found a way to lose. But you would imagine getting Nick Chubb back takes some of the pressure off the passing game. And it's weird, Madeline, because it feels like at 1-3, this Browns team, I don't want to say the season is lost, but it feels like they're wasting head coach Kevin Stefanski. Usually you say, oh, you're wasting this player because the coaching staff isn't there. And this feels to be the reverse case, in part because of the Deshaun Watson contract that we can't quit talking about because he has yet to live up to it. But I think Nick Chubb gives you something in terms of balance. And you mentioned the Week 2 game. That was against the Steelers. He got hurt on a low hit by Minkah Fitzpatrick. And to get him back gives you one more weapon offensively. We talked about Amari Cooper as a possible trade target. He's the best receiver on this team. David Njoku has been out with injury. The offensive line's been banged up. So some positive news is the return of Nick Chubb. But I don't want to say it's too late. We're only a quarter of the way through the season, not even yet there. But it feels like it's too late, even with the return of Nick Chubb, because they have so many other things going on. And then the question becomes, what does this team look like over the second half of the season? During the offseason, what's the quarterback situation? What's the head coaching situation? But for now, if you're a Browns fan and looking for a glimmer of hope, Nick Chubb is it.
Hey, we got to focus on the glimmers in life,
Yep.
right? You know, the points of positivity. But staying in the AFC North, the Steelers, they're starting right guard Jayden Daniels as an Achilles tear. He'll miss the remainder of the season. Now, this is just the latest in a litany of injuries to Pittsburgh's offensive line. The Steelers have started the season 3-1, but this has got to be some particularly affecting news, especially when you're talking about quarterback production and a lot of questions that still remain about, do they stay with Justin Fields? Do they have Russell Wilson waiting in the wings? And how do they handle that with the injuries to the offensive line?
Yeah, absolutely. 3-0, then they went to Indianapolis, got down 17-0. They lose James Daniels, their right guard. They are without Troy Polamalu, their left tackle, their first-round pick. He's out for the season with a knee injury. Now you're shuffling the line. Broderick Jones, last year's first-round pick, was supposed to play left tackle. Now he's at right tackle. And Isaac Seumalo, the left guard, Madeline, has been hurt up to this point. So they're going to have to start a rookie, Mason McCormick, on the right side in place of Daniels. And to your larger point, what does this mean? I think you still have to stick with Justin Fields because he's clearly more mobile than Russ at this point in their respective careers. But this is going to put a strain not only in the offense and Arthur Smith, the play caller. The running game has been ineffective outside of Cordell Patterson, which is sort of funny because Najee Harris is averaging something like fewer than 2 yards per rush the last few games. But the defense is going to have to pick up the slack as well. We know what T.J. Watt can do. We know what Minkah Fitzpatrick and Patrick Queen can do. Those guys are going to have to continue to ball out. Next up are the Dallas Cowboys, who have their own injury concerns, and they're not going to feel sorry for the Steelers. They're without D-Law, and they're without Micah Parsons on their defense. So we'll see what that looks like in this game. That won't feature all the stars we're accustomed to seeing. But we're at the point in the process, Madeline, where it feels like guys are falling because of these injuries, and we're only 4 weeks into this thing.
Only 4 weeks into this thing. A lot of injuries have happened, and tough sledding for James Daniels. But Jayden Daniels, not some bad news there. He's, number 2 on your draft boards, but number 1 in our hearts right now. The Commanders' rookie quarterback has been making it look easy. He's got more scoring drives than incomplete passes through his first 4 NFL games. He's outshining number 1 overall pick Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, the rookie in Denver. When you look at how much Jayden Daniels has been able to find success in his rookie season so far, is it more of a fit in the system situation, or is he really just that much better than these rookie quarterbacks?
Jayden Daniels deserves a ton of credit, and not to take anything away from him, but fit matters, and I've been saying that for weeks now, it feels like, as we watch these rookie quarterbacks play. But this is the second year in a row, Madeline, that the number 2 pick, C.J. Stroud last year, and this year Jayden Daniels, has gone to a perfect location. Offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury has been a fantastic marriage with Jayden Daniels in terms of getting the most out of him. Last year, Bobby Slowick was the OC for CJ in his breakout campaign. And there are a lot of similarities. The first 2 weeks, CJ struggled. Jayden was okay, but not great, and he gets better and better each week. They put more and more on his plate. He's pushing the ball downfield more. This last game against the Cardinals, he was slinging it. He had a lot of great throws down the field. Got his guy Terry McLaurin involved. And I don't think 82% completion percentage is sustainable, but hey, maybe I'm wrong, because the way Jayden Daniels has played has been unbelievable. And that's no disrespect to Caleb Williams, who I think is going to be a really good football player. But I think it's pretty easy to argue that the fit in Washington for Jayden is a little better right now than the fit in Chicago for Caleb.
Well, and Jayden Daniels has his Commanders leading the NFC East at the first quarter of the season.
I picked the Washington Commanders to win the division.
See, you called it a shot. Over to another first-round rookie quarterback, though, in New England. Passing game for the Patriots continues to be a struggle with veteran quarterback Jacoby Brissett under center. After Sunday's 17-point loss to the Niners, the Pats fell to 1-3 on the season, but head coach Jerod Mayo did not mince words on who their starting quarterback would be moving forward, despite having Drake May waiting in the wings.
And I'm not trying to send mixed messages. And when I said, the right to change my mind, I'm talking about the entire team. I said, because the thing about it, I always reserve the right to make a change at any given time. And so, I don't want the fans or anyone to think, what is he talking about? Jacoby's 100% our starter. He's 100% our starter, and that's how we're going to look at this going forward.
Patriots head coach Jerod Mayo saying Jacoby is 100% our starter. But Ryan, when you look at the way that they've handled this situation for the young quarterback Drake May, they've given him a little bit of playing time. They've split the practice reps with the ones. But then also the Patriots have given up 13 sacks over the past 2 games. So perhaps does sticking with Brissett almost help Mayo a little bit?
Yeah, this is bad news for Jacoby Brissett because he's basically the sacrificial lamb. Go out there, take a ton of sacks. Please don't get hurt so we don't put Drake May in. Drake May played the last series in that Week 3 matchup against the Jets, and that blowout loss 24-3. And it was hard to tell whether he was making progress or not because, to your point, he was running for his life and getting hit consistently, and that's with the backups in there for the Jets. The left tackle situation is a complete and utter disaster because of injury for the Patriots. They had a young man out there. I don't want to call him out because he struggled so much, but you're not going up against Bosa and having success, and it went exactly like you thought it would, and Jacoby Brissett was the victim in that crime. So one of the things to keep in mind is that Drake May is 21. Incredibly young, and people talked about this during the draft process, that you can draft him, but you have to have a plan, and I think Jerod Mayo is exactly right. There is no reason to rush this young man out there, and I know our buddy Pete Prisco likes to say, let's see what we have, but this is not the time to be a hero. This is not the Washington Commanders. This isn't even the Chicago Bears, where you would have an opportunity to have some success if you're Drake May. I think you sit him as long as you can. Maybe you play him the last month of the season once the playoffs have been, have said bye-bye, but up until that point, I would not rush him out there because it feels like more harm than good could come from it.
Absolutely, and we've seen a lot of success from quarterbacks in this league sitting behind starters. Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, to name a few. So as we take a look at the Patriots' remaining schedule, Jacoby Brissett is 100% the starter, according to head coach Jerod Mayo. Ryan Wilson, thanks so much for the insight. CBS has 5 monster games on tap this Sunday. Josh Allen and C.J. Stroud go head-to-head in a battle of 3-1 squads. Burrow and Lamar face off in an AFC North showdown. Jaguars try to avoid starting the season 0-5 against their division rival Colts, and the Giants looking to get back on track against the Seahawks. Plus, Jordan Love's Packers and Matthew Stafford's Rams both look to bounce back with wins in Game of the Week. Watch live or stream on Paramount Plus and tune in to HQ for highlights and post-game reaction.